Although whaling in the early 1800s was a dangerous, difficult occupation, nobody amongst the Essex's 21-man crew that departed Nantucket, Massachusetts, anticipated what would happen in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There, a whale full of rage destroyed their ship far from land and left them in 3 small whale boats, trying to figure out how to save themselves. Many of them perished, and several of the 9 who did survive did unthinkable things in order to continue living. Whaling, which has been engaged in for thousands of years, had been one of the strongest industries in what would become the United States since the 1600s, the same century that the Pilgrims took the Mayflower and succeeding ships to New England. It was in the 1700s when the whaling business started becoming particularly lucrative, as boats began being sent not just throughout the Atlantic Ocean, but even around Cape Horn and into the Pacific Ocean, particularly once the whale population had started decreasing significantly in the Atlantic. When the Essex was sent on its fateful voyage, its intended destination was the Pacific. During the era of the Essex, Nantucket was renowned not as the tranquil retreat it is today, but rather as the bustling hub of whaling activity. Situated south of Cape Cod, this island was a bustling center where whaling ships embarked on their voyages, returning with the bounty of the sea. By contemporary standards, the crew of the ship was notably youthful. The captain, George Pollard, was merely 29 years old, making him one of the older members whose ages are recorded. Richard Peterson, estimated to be 60, was the eldest known crewman. In contrast, there were at least 6 teenagers among the crew, with 4 being 16 or younger. Of the 21 crew members, at least 9 hailed from or grew up in Nantucket, while at least 3 others had roots in Massachusetts. Launched on August 12, 1819, the Essex had a successful track record, having operated profitably for 2 decades and garnering impressive profits on its 6 preceding voyages. It joined a fleet of 34 whale ships departing from Nantucket that year. Despite being relatively small for a whale ship, measuring 88 feet in length, the Essex was equipped with 5 whale boats, each approximately 28 feet long. These boats played a crucial role in the whaling process, often initiating contact with whales and towing captured specimens back to the main vessel for processing. The primary objective of the crew was to hunt sperm whales, highly prized for their valuable blubber and waxy oil. These resources were essential commodities, utilized in cosmetics, candles, and as lubricants for machinery. Just 2 days into its voyage from Nantucket, the Essex encountered a fierce squall that caused it to capsize, resulting in significant damage and the loss of 2 whale boats. Initially considering abandoning the journey, Captain Pollard was persuaded by Owen Chase and Matthew Joy, the ship's first and second mates respectively, to press on. Their concern stemmed from the fear that returning to Nantucket so soon after the mishap might lead to desertions among the crew, perceiving the incident as an ill omen. This marked the first instance where Pollard's initial instincts clashed with the advice of his officers, a foreshadowing of a future fatal error. However, at this point the crew continued their course, making stops at the Azores and Cape Verde Islands off the African coast to replenish supplies and acquire a replacement whale boat before setting sail once more towards South America. Two months into their journey, the crew sighted and successfully captured their first sperm whale near Rio de Janeiro. However, they anticipated a more abundant yield of whales once they entered the Pacific Ocean. Their expectations were realized in January 1820 when they rounded Cape Horn and ventured into Pacific waters. Despite initial disappointments along the Chilean coast, their fortunes shifted upon reaching present-day Peru, where they successfully captured 10 whales, marking a significant turning point in their expedition. In May 1820, Pollard made the strategic decision to venture far from the South American coast, drawn by rumors of lucrative whaling opportunities in newly explored waters abundant with sperm whales. However, extensive preparations were necessary before embarking on this venture, delaying their departure. In September of that year, the crew halted in Atacames, an Ecuadorian beach town located 100 miles from the Colombian border, to finalize their arrangements. It was during this stop that one of the crew members, Henry DeWitt, deserted the ship, reducing the crew to just 20 members. When whales were sighted, the usual practice involved deploying 3 whale boats, each manned by an officer, a boat steerer, and 4 crew members for pursuit. With DeWitt's departure, only 2 crew members remained on board the Essex, posing a significant challenge in safety, managing a ship of its size and nature. In order to replenish their provisions for the arduous journey ahead, the Essex set course for Charles Island, later renamed Floriana Island, situated within the Galapagos archipelago. Initially anchoring off Hood Island, now known as Española Island, on October 8, 1820, the crew addressed a critical leak during their week-long stay. During this time, they seized 300 Galapagos giant tortoises to augment the ship's food reserves. Departing for Charles Island, they secured an additional 60 tortoises on October 22nd, each weighing between 100 and 800 pounds. Some of the tortoises were allowed free roam on the ship, while the remainder were confined to the hold. It was believed that these creatures could survive for up to a year without sustenance, though tragically, they eventually perished due to starvation. During a hunting excursion on Charles Island, boat steerer Thomas Chappell ignited a fire as a practical joke. Unfortunately, it was the peak of the dry season, and the fire rapidly spiraled out of control, trapping the hunters amidst the flames. Forced to flee through the inferno, they narrowly escaped harm. Upon their return to the Essex, they found that nearly the entire island was ablaze. Enraged by the devastation, Pollard vowed to identify the culprit responsible for the fire. Despite sailing away to the offshore grounds the following day, the ship's crew could still see the flames engulfing the island on the horizon, a haunting reminder of the havoc wreaked by Chappell's ill-fated prank. On November 20th, 15 months after departing Nantucket, the Essex reached the offshore ground, a remote area 1,500 miles from the Galapagos and over 2,000 miles from South America, where tragedy would soon unfold. That morning, the lookout spotted whale spouts, prompting 18 of the 20 crew members to swiftly board 3 whaleboats and pursue the pod. During the capture attempt led by Chase's team, a whale's tail struck their boat, forcing them to return to the Essex for repairs. Meanwhile, Pollard and Joy's teams were being towed away by a harpooned whale. As repairs were underway, Chase observed an unusually large sperm whale in the distance, estimating its length at 85 feet. After emitting spouts, the whale charged towards the Essex, striking it with great force and causing chaos on board. Chase noted the whale's apparent anger before it retreated briefly, allowing the crew to assess the damage. However, the whale returned moments later, accelerating to around 24 knots, or 27 miles per hour, for a second attack. Chase later noted in his diary, "I turned around and saw him about 100 rods, 500 meters or 550 yards directly ahead of us, coming down with twice his ordinary speed of around 24 knots, and it appeared with tenfold fury and vengeance in his aspect. The surf flew in all directions about him with the continual violent thrashing of his tail, his head about half out of the water, and in that way he came upon us and again struck the ship." This relentless assault doomed the Essex, leading to a frantic effort to abandon ship. Crew members rushed to gather essential supplies, including navigational instruments, with William Bond ensuring their retrieval. Despite his efforts, Bond was presumed lost, a casualty of the disaster. Pollard, returning to the ship, was shocked by its dire condition. While some crew members grasped the gravity of their situation, others may have been too stunned or inexperienced to fully comprehend it. For 2 days, the men salvaged supplies from the waterlogged wreck of the Essex. Improvised sails were rigged, gunwales heightened, and makeshift repairs attempted. Inside Pollard's sea chest were vital navigational tools divvied up among the three boats. Debates ensued over the route to land. Pollard preferred westward, fearing cannibals in the Marquesas Islands. Chase and Joy disagreed, opting for a southern route to Chile or Peru, hoping to encounter another ship. Ultimately, they chose Joy's suggestion. Divided among the three boats, they embarked on November 22, 1820, facing constant leaks and rough seas. Storms battered them, and they fought to keep the boats afloat while rationing dwindling food and water. Despite challenges, they pressed on, their journey marked by peril and perseverance. On December 20th, a month after the harrowing whale attack, the starving and exhausted crew landed on Henderson Island, believing it to be Ducie Island. Despite finding food like birds, eggs, and fish, water was scarce until they discovered a freshwater spring. After 1 week and with resources quickly depleting, they faced a dire choice: stay and starve, or set sail again. 3 men, William Wright, Seth Weeks, and Thomas Chappell, opted to remain on the island, trusting Pollard's promise of rescue. On December 27, 1820, the 17 remaining crew members of the Essex set out once more, aiming for Easter Island. However, by January 4, 1821, they realized they had drifted too far south and redirected toward Masafuera Island off the coast of Chile. Their food supply dwindled, forcing them back to meager rations of water and bread. Tragedy struck with the passing of Matthew Joy on January 10th, followed by Richard Peterson on January 20th and Lawson Thomas on the same day. With desperation setting in, they made the grim decision to consume the bodies of the deceased for sustenance. By February 6th, Pollard's crew faced starvation once more, leading to the harrowing decision to draw lots, resulting in the sacrifice of Owen Coffin. As days passed, Barzillai Ray met a similar fate, consumed by his fellow survivors. Meanwhile, the men in Chase's boat also resorted to cannibalism upon the death of Isaac Cole on February 10th. In the haunting words of Chase, "I have no language to paint the anguish of our souls in this dreadful dilemma." On February 18th, Benjamin Lawrence, at the helm of Chase's boat, spotted a sail in the distance. They managed to reach the vessel, the British ship Indian, and were hoisted aboard due to their weakened state. Later that day, they caught sight of Masafuera, the island Chase had been navigating toward with remarkable accuracy. A few days later, Indian arrived in Valparaiso, but the whaleboat towed behind was lost in a gale. On February 23rd, 93 days after the Essex sank, Pollard and Charles Ramsdell were rescued near St. Mary's Island by the Nantucket whale ship Dauphin, where the Essex had stopped over a year prior. They were close to starvation, surviving by sucking on the bones of their deceased comrades. Transferred to the whale ship Two Brothers, bound for Valparaiso, they were reunited with Chase, Lawrence, and Thomas Nickerson, who had been recovering on the USS Constellation. All survivors were Nantucketeers. On March 23rd, Chase, Lawrence, Nickerson, and Ramsdell embarked for Nantucket aboard the whale ship Eagle, while Pollard, still weak, followed in the ship the Two Brothers in May. The USS Constellation commander facilitated the rescue of the 3 men left on what they thought was Ducie Island, actually Henderson Island. The Australian trading vessel Surrey, en route to Australia, was asked to stop at Ducie Island. Finding it uninhabited, they continued to Henderson Island, where they found Chappell, Weeks, and Wright on April 9th. In the annals of maritime history, the saga of the Essex and her crew remains a haunting testament to the perils of the sea. As the year 1822 dawned, Captain Pollard embarked on a fateful voyage aboard the whale ship Two Brothers. However, tragedy struck once more when the vessel foundered on the French frigate Shoals, marking the end of Pollard's ill-fated whaling career. On June 11, 1821, Chase returned to Nantucket to a bittersweet reunion, discovering a daughter he had never met. Just months later, he penned his harrowing account of the Essex disaster, laying the groundwork for Herman Melville's literary masterpiece, Moby-Dick. Chase's subsequent voyages, including stints on the Florida and the Winslow, mirrored the ebb and flow of his tumultuous life. Lawrence, once a stalwart seafarer, retired to a tranquil existence on Nantucket shores, tending to his farm at Sisconset until his passing on March 28, 1879. Ramsdell, too, found solace in the quiet rhythms of island life, captaining the General Jackson until his death on July 8, 1866. Nickerson's later years were marked by a return to Nantucket, where he shared his first-hand account of the Essex demise in his seminal work, The Loss of the Ship Essex, Sunk by a Whale and the Ordeal of the Crew in Open Boats. His legacy endures through the preservation of his narrative by the Nantucket Historical Association. Meanwhile, the survivors rescued from Henderson Island embarked on divergent paths. Chappell, Weeks, and Wright found themselves navigating new horizons, from missionary work to seafaring adventures. Their stories, intertwined with the echoes of the Essex tragedy, serve as a poignant reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. The legacy of the Essex lives on through Melville's timeless tale, immortalizing the courage and fortitude of her crew amidst the tempestuous seas. As the years pass, their journey continues to captivate and inspire, a testament to the enduring power of the human will in the face of adversity.